This story cost me the thing I loved most in the world, my daughter Caitlin. If you're a mother, if you have children, please listen to me until the end, because maybe then you'll understand the pain I've carried in my heart for the past 3 years. It was a Thursday morning. I remember it like it was yesterday. The sun was shining through the kitchen window as I made my coffee. Caitlin had left early to work at the clothing store downtown, and I stayed home taking care of my 2 grandchildren, Aiden, 8 years old, and Lauren, 5. They were my joy, my reason to live ever since my husband George went to heaven 6 years ago. I lived with them in the house we built with so much sacrifice. It was a simple house, but full of love, with a little backyard where I grew my geraniums and where the kids played every afternoon. Caitlin had always been a devoted, hard-working daughter who never gave me any trouble. When she married Alex 10 years ago, I thought she had finally found the happiness she deserved. Alex seemed like a good man. He worked as a mechanic in an auto shop, always got home on time, treated the kids well, and respected me. Of course, sometimes I noticed certain things. He came home late some nights, always with excuses about extra work, or he would spend a lot of time on his phone, hiding the screen when someone walked by. But I thought they were just man's quirks, nothing important. That Thursday, I had promised to take the kids to visit my cousin Margaret, who lived on the other side of the city. We took the bus and went there, but when we arrived, we found out she had gone to run some errands at the bank. So we decided to go back home earlier than planned. The children were tired from the heat and the trip, so I thought it would be best to make them a snack and let them rest. That's when, as we got to our street, my life turned upside down. I saw Alex's car parked in front of our neighbor Natalie's house, a divorced woman who had moved into the neighborhood just a few months earlier. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe he was helping her with something. After all, Alex was always helpful with the neighbors. But something in my mother's heart, that intuition only women have, told me something wasn't right. I left the children playing in the yard and told them I was going to get some tomatoes from Mrs. Joanna's house to make salsa. But in truth, I couldn't get the image of Alex's car out of my head. I walked slowly down the sidewalk, my heart pounding, my legs trembling as if they already knew what was coming. Natalie's house had a side window that faced the empty lot, and from there you could see part of the living room. I don't know where I got the courage, but I went closer, hiding behind the low wall. What I saw in that moment broke my heart, and even today, 3 years later, it hurts as if it were the first time. Alex was embracing Natalie on her couch. It wasn't a friendly hug. It wasn't comfort for some problem. It was the hug of a man in love, of someone betraying his family. They kissed with the kind of intimacy that only comes after a long time together. She was wearing a red blouse I had seen hanging on her clothesline just days earlier, and he was caressing her hair the same way I used to see him do with my daughter in the early years of their marriage. I stood there frozen, unable to move, watching my son-in-law betray my girl in the most shameless way possible. The worst part was realizing, from their gestures, from how natural they were with each other, that this wasn't the first time. It was an affair that had been going on for a while. Maybe months, maybe even years. I staggered back home, my legs weak, my head spinning. How was I supposed to tell Caitlin? How does a mother destroy her own daughter's world? I sat in the kitchen, trying to process what I had just witnessed. The children played happily in the yard, not knowing that the family they knew was crumbling right at that moment. I spent the rest of the afternoon in agony. When Alex came home at 6 o'clock, as always, he greeted everyone normally, kissed Caitlin on the forehead, played with the kids, and asked how my day had been. I watched him closely, looking for signs of guilt, of nervousness, but he acted as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't spent the entire afternoon in another woman's arms. During dinner, while we ate the meal Caitlin had prepared with so much love, I couldn't swallow a single bite. I watched my daughter smile at her husband, talk about her day at work, plan the weekend with the kids, and my heart bled inside. She had no idea that the man she trusted, the father of her children, was living a double life. That night was horrible. I tossed and turned in bed, wondering what I should do. Should I tell Caitlin what I had seen? Should I confront Alex first? Or should I pretend I hadn't seen anything and just let life take its course? I remembered my own mother, Mary, who always said that the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a lie. But then I thought about the children, the home they had built together, all the dreams my daughter had for her future. Would it be fair for me to destroy all of that? For 3 days, I carried this burden alone. Alex would sometimes come home at his usual time, but other nights he came late, always with the same excuses about extra work at the shop. I watched him more closely now and noticed details I hadn't paid attention to before. The different perfume on his clothes, the way he smiled while looking at his phone, how nervous he got whenever someone came near him while he was on a call. Caitlin, my poor daughter, didn't notice a thing. She went on being the same devoted wife as always, waking up early to make Alex's breakfast, carefully washing and ironing his clothes, dreaming about their next vacation in Malibu. Every smile of hers tightened the knot in my chest because I knew behind that smile there was a terrible betrayal. On Saturday night, after the kids had gone to bed, Alex said he needed to go out to help a friend whose car had broken down. Caitlin didn't even question it. She just asked him to be careful and come back early because they were going to church together on Sunday, like they did every week. That was the moment I made the hardest decision of my life. I couldn't keep that secret any longer. My daughter had the right to know the truth about the man she shared her bed with and raised children with. She deserved the chance to decide what to do with her own life, even if it meant terrible suffering. I waited for Alex to leave and sat next to Caitlin on the living room couch. She was watching her favorite soap opera on TV, relaxing after a long day at the store. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. I took a deep breath, asked God for strength, and began to speak. I told her everything. From the moment I saw his car at Natalie's house to all the little details I had noticed over the past few days. I chose each word carefully, trying to be gentle but completely honest. I thought she would be surprised, that she would cry, that she would thank me for telling her the truth. But Caitlin's reaction was nothing like what I expected. At first she was silent, staring at me with an expression I had never seen on her face. It wasn't shock, it wasn't sadness, it was anger, a deep anger that made me afraid. Then she started to speak, and every word felt like a slap across my face. She said I was making things up, that I was getting old and paranoid, that I couldn't stand seeing her happy in her marriage. She accused me of being jealous because Alex didn't give me the same attention he gave her, said I had always been a meddling, controlling mother-in-law. I tried to explain again what I had seen, even offered to go with her to Natalie's house so she could see with her own eyes. But the more I spoke, the angrier she got. She jumped up from the couch and started pacing the living room like a caged animal, her hands trembling with rage, her eyes filled with tears she refused to shed. That's when she said the words that shattered me completely. She screamed that I was a liar, a bitter, petty woman who couldn't stand to see her daughter happy. She said Alex was a hard-working and faithful man, that he would never cheat on her, and that I had invented the whole story out of jealousy and envy of their relationship. Our argument woke the children, who came into the living room in their pajamas, frightened by the yelling. Aiden asked what was going on, and Caitlin, without even looking at me, said their grandmother was telling lies about their daddy, and that's why she was so upset. In that moment, I realized that trying to protect my daughter had been my biggest mistake. Caitlin told me she could no longer trust me, that I was destroying her family with my malicious lies. She said if I kept spreading those accusations about Alex, she would have no choice but to ask me to leave the house. I begged her to listen to me, tried to hug her, but she pulled away as if my touch burned her skin. The children started to cry, terrified by the scene, and that's when Alex walked in. Caitlin ran into his arms, told him my version of the story through tears, and he looked at me with a contempt I will never forget. Alex pretended to be shocked and hurt by my accusations. He said he had always respected me as his wife's mother, that he could never imagine I'd invent such a terrible lie. Caitlin clung to him even tighter, apologizing on my behalf, promising that it would never happen again. Then she turned to me and shouted for me to pack my things and leave the house that very night. I left that home with only a small suitcase and a shattered heart. The children cried when they saw me go. Aiden clung to my legs, begging me not to leave, but Caitlin pulled them back inside. Through the window, I saw Alex consoling my daughter, probably convincing her even more that I really was just a troublesome, lying mother-in-law. I moved into a small rented room in the downtown area near the cathedral. It was tiny, damp, and noisy, but it was all I could afford with my small pension. Every day I walked past the church and prayed, asking that one day my daughter would discover the truth and come back to me. For 6 months, I tried to get close to her. I went to the store where she worked, but she refused to talk to me. She wouldn't answer my calls. I tried to speak with the children at school, but the teachers had been instructed not to let me near my own grandchildren. It was one afternoon in December, just before Christmas, when I ran into my cousin Margaret at the market. She told me that the entire neighborhood already knew about Alex's affair with Natalie, that they didn't even hide it anymore, that they were seen together at restaurants, at the movies, even walking hand in hand in the town square. She said people had tried to warn Caitlin, but she refused to listen to anyone, defending her husband like a lioness protecting her cubs. 3 years have passed since that terrible day. Alex finally left Caitlin and the kids to live openly with Natalie. My daughter had to sell the house, lost her job because of depression, and now struggles to raise the children on her own, living in a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. I learned from Margaret that Aiden, now 11 years old, sometimes asks about me, wants to know why his grandmother doesn't come visit anymore. But Caitlin sticks to her version, saying I am a bad woman who tried to destroy their family with lies. Today, I live alone in this little room, surviving on my small pension, unable to hug my grandchildren or see my daughter. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing by telling the truth. Maybe I should have stayed silent. Maybe then I would still have my family. But deep down in my heart, I know that a true mother cannot stay silent while watching her daughter be deceived. A mother's love sometimes hurts, sometimes costs dearly, but it is always real. And even though I am alone without my family, I sleep knowing I tried to protect my girl, even if she never understood it. If you are a mother going through something similar, know that you are not alone. The truth always comes out, even if it takes time.